Alright guys, welcome back to the Us vs. Them YouTube channel. I'm your host Vince, and let's get into the fights for this weekend. Taira versus Park Hang-sung. Before we do that, I just want to give a quick review of last week. Last week we didn't do super hot, only won about 5 money lines or something like that. But then again, it was a tough card to pick. There were 7 out of the 12 fights. 7 underdogs won. It's kind of one of those picks, or one of those fight cards where you got to get super lucky, honestly, because the way that it was supposed to go just didn't happen. And that's just how it's going to go sometime. On this channel, we're going for big odds, long shot odds, odds that pay really well when they do pay, and we want to do that intelligently. So obviously we're not going to win every single weekend, but we're going to win as often as we can, and when we do win, we're going to win big. So let's get into the first 3 fights of the UFC Fight Night. Taira versus Park Hang-sung, however you say his name. First fight of the night is a WMMA fight between Pierre Rodriguez versus Ketlin Souza. Rodriguez is coming in at a -200 favorite, and Souza is a +154 underdog. Pierre Rodriguez is coming to this fight with a 10-2 record and a 3-2 UFC record. Souza is coming in with a 15-5 record and a 2-2 UFC record. When I'm analyzing this fight, I look at 2 girls who like to move forward, who like to be kind of in the phone booth, trading punches. They like to use be in close range. I like Pierre's ability to, when she takes a shot, she likes to get people against the cage if it's a bad shot, and she puts them against the cage, works double unders, and then she finds some damage from there. We see her landing some short elbows and short punches, and also some knees to the body, which can do some damage. When it comes to Souza striking, she doesn't extend her combos quite as much, but she definitely has the power advantage. She seems to definitely be the harder hitter fighter of the 2, and I think that's going to play a factor in this fight. When it comes to the grappling, I've seen both of the ladies be really solid on the top, but we've also seen both ladies get controlled by superior grapplers. When it comes to Rodriguez, we saw her getting controlled badly against Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson was kind of passing around her body over and over again, passing to full guard, side control, full guard, mount. She was kind of doing that over and over again, and it really just showed how much better she is at grappling than Rodriguez. We've also seen Ketlin Souza get out grappled before too. We saw in her fight against Corrine Silva, where she lost via submission round 1. She got taken down kind of early. To me, she looked like she come into the fight a little bit not focused, a little bit maybe not recognizing the danger that was in front of her. I think Silva kind of picked up on that and just kind of body locked her and threw her to the ground really easily. And then really early on in the fight, she was able to work the submission. So we've also seen Souza get out grappled as well. I see early on in this fight, Souza landing some big heavy strikes and forcing Rodriguez to start grappling. I think Rodriguez is going to put her against the cage and land some of those strikes that we were talking about, some of those elbows, some knees to the body, some close range punches. But as the fight goes on, I think we're going to see her finding less and less success with that. I think Souza is going to be able to open up a little bit more in the striking because she realizes that she's not getting controlled as much in the grappling. And I think her harder hitting abilities is going to favor her in this fight. I'm going to go Ketlin Souza by decision. Fight number 2, we have Felipe Gomez versus Rafael Esteban. Gomez is coming into this fight at a +340 underdog, and Esteban is coming in at a -500 favorite. Felipe Gomez is coming into this fight with a 14-7 record and a 1-1 UFC record. He has a KO loss against Joshua Van in the 2nd round, and he also has a round 1 submission against Jose Johnson. When I was watching that Joshua Van fight, in the 1st round, Josh Van typically starts slow, typically gives up rounds, but we saw Bunez be able to outscore him or outstrike him that round, and after that 1st round, I gave that round to Bunez. When it comes to round 2, though, obviously that's where Josh Van ended up finding the finish. I think the durability of Bunez kind of started playing into a factor, and that's the reason why Joshua Van was able to get that 2nd round knockout. Rafael Esteban is coming into this fight with a perfect 13-0 record and a 2-0 UFC record. He holds wins over Charles Johnson by decision and Jesus Aguilar by decision. And he also got a nice 2nd round KO on Dana White's Contender Series. I think the biggest factor in this fight is whether Bunez is going to be able to stuff takedowns and keep the fight on the feet where he'll have a clear advantage. When I look at Estevan's fights, he seems like he really looks uncomfortable being on his feet. I know he's made improvements in this area, but he looks like he definitely is very focused on getting the fight to the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, he really is effective at getting the fight to the ground. I believe he's scored takedowns in every single one of his pro MMA bouts, including his 2 in the UFC, and that makes his grappling very much a live threat. Estevan's cardio has been an issue in the past, and who knows if it'll be fixed. Obviously, he's the only one that's going to know this for this fight, but just based on how his past fights have gone, we can kind of anticipate him to start fading late in round 2 and in round 3. Estevan's path to victory is going to lie in his ability to get the fight to the ground, get control on top, get damage on top, and either win a decision fight that way or look for a submission. And obviously, Bunez is going to want to keep this striking bout, although his well-roundedness may play a factor in this fight. When it comes to my official prediction, I do see that this is going to be a very close fight. I don't think that the odds makers are right with this one at all, having Bunez at a plus 340 and Estevan as a minus 500. I think this is going to probably turn into a dogfight, and the real thing is Estevan going to be able to get him to the ground? And if he does, is he going to be able to do enough damage on top to make sure he wins the fight? And I do see that he's going to be able to do enough in the first 2 rounds to get a 29-28 decision if we go to decision. I can also see a path to victory where he does get some ground and pound on top and finishes him that way. But I'm not super sold on that one. I think the biggest issue is going to be Bunez's durability. Is he going to be able to be durable enough to take big shots on bottom and keep working through and staying in the fight? For my official prediction, I'm going to go with Estevan by decision, 29-28. That's a little specific. But I also can see the draw prop being live here. I can definitely see a world where Estevan wins the first 2 rounds and then drops a 10-8 round in round 3 for a draw. So keep an eye on the draw prop too. But for my official prediction, I got Estevan by decision. The last fight we're going to get into today is Rodolfo Vieira versus Tresean Gore. Rodolfo Vieira is sitting at a minus 225 favorite, and Tresean Gore is currently at plus 172 underdog. Rodolfo Vieira is coming into this fight with a professional MMA record of 10-3 with a UFC record of 5-3, whereas Tresean Gore came into the UFC at 3-0. He's currently sitting at 5-3 right now with an obvious 2-3 UFC record. When it comes to breaking down this fight, this also appears on paper as a grappler versus striker matchup, but Tresean Gore can also grapple, and Rodolfo Vieira can definitely also strike. His striking was not great early on in the UFC, still not super good right now, but he's definitely making improvements fight after fight. I think the biggest difference maker on their feet is the power that comes from Tresean Gore. He has devastating knockout power in both of his hands that he can throw, from up or over, basically any angle. A lot of time he uses that as a counter puncher, so typically opponents don't really see it coming. And if he's able to catch Rodolfo Vieira in the right spot, it could be good night for him. Like I said, Rodolfo Vieira's striking is improving as he's going through his UFC career. When you look at his fight with Chris Curtis, based on the numbers, he was right on line with Chris Curtis, who's obviously a pretty solid striker. The reason why Chris Curtis was able to get the nod in that decision is because he seemed like he was landing the harder shots and the cleaner shots. I think if Vieira is able to come into this fight making the same improvements that he's made in past UFC fights, he could be able to stand and strike with Tresean Gore. He does have a really nice jab that he can utilize to keep Gore at range, since he's going to be the taller and longer fighter. So if he goes in and sets up, especially if he's able to set up some takedowns with the jab, I can see him cruising his way easily to a win. The grappling advantage definitely goes to Rodolfo Vieira. I believe his nickname is the Black Belt Hunter. So obviously his jiu-jitsu is very high level. But you also have to be he has to be mindful when he shoots it on takedowns of Gore's ability to lock in guillotine chokes. He's got a standing guillotine choke. He's got that guillotine choke against, who was it? Josh Frimm, or he almost ripped his head off, it seemed like. So he definitely has to be able to be mindful and protect his neck if he is going to shoot in on takedowns against Tresean Gore. When I look at Vieira's past fights, so I notice sometimes he struggles to blend in striking with his grappling. He's a grappler by nature, obviously, very high level jiu-jitsu, but sometimes, we've seen in past fights where he starts to have some troubles taking the fight to the ground. We saw this against Chris Curtis, where he doesn't seem to blend the two disciplines too well. He comes in with the mentality of getting the fight to the ground and working some grappling. But if he's not able to do that, then he resets his brain and says, all right, well, now I'm going to strike some. I think if he's able to blend those two disciplines well, he'll be able to get a clear victory here. As far as my official prediction goes, I don't see this fight going to the scorecards. I think Vieira wins as long as he doesn't try to force his grappling, which we've seen him do. But as far as my official decision, I'm going to lean towards Vieira by submission. I understand that Tresean Gore's never been submitted, but he's never fought somebody as good on the ground as Rodolfo Vieira. So my official prediction is Rodolfo Vieira by submission. Well, that's all I got for today's video. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video where I'll go over the next 3 fights on the UFC Fight Night. Taira versus Hong Sung Park, I guess. If you agree with any of the predictions that I have, go ahead and drop that in the comments below. If you want to just tell me I fucking suck at this, go ahead and tell me that too. I don't give a shit. So as far as this, I'm out. See ya.